For many, as I have often told you and now tell you even in tears, conduct themselves as enemies of the cross of Christ. That language hits hard. As I have often told you and now tell you even in tears, you can feel the urgency and the anxiety behind Paul's words. Here is a shepherd who is very concerned for his flock. And for that reason, I want to look more closely at what it means to be an enemy of the cross, with the hope that we can avoid doing so in our own discipleship. The simplest approach to this, of course, is to just look at the people who were involved at Calvary. I think here of the thief who mocked our Lord. Picture this. Here he is. He's facing his own death. He's powerless to change his fate. He's hanging beside the only one who can. But instead, he uses his last breath to deride our Lord. This is interesting. Despite the fact that all of us live under a common condemnation of death, it is the case that many choose to squander the limited time that we have by using it to mock the sacrifice of Calvary. The most notorious instance of this would be like the satanic Black Mass. There's one that's going to be held at the Kansas State Capitol on March 28th, and by design is filled with rituals intended to mock God and to show contempt for Jesus in his sacrifice and in his sacraments. But perhaps more pervasive and certainly more subtle is the hedonism of modern culture that adopts our carnal appetites as its North Star. Rightly does Paul then say, their God is their stomach, their glory is their shame. Their minds are accompanied with earthly things. Such behaviors and dispositions render those persons enemies of the cross because they are, in and of themselves, contemptuous and self-serving, when the cross, by nature, is about charity and self-sacrifice. So there's an incompatibility. Or consider the Pharisees, who themselves make a mockery of the cross. They stand there bearing the garments of religion, but they're using their platform for evil. In them is every baptized Christian, great and small, who present themselves publicly as a disciple of Jesus Christ, but in their lives adopt and encourage a gospel that is foreign to Jesus. They are enemies because they peddle a crossless Christianity, one marked not by obedience and self-emptying, but rather personal preference and vice. There are those on Calvary also who refuse to let the power of the cross redeem them. For shame or arrogance, such people hold their sins unconfessed for years, or even and oftentimes till death. This is, of course, the error of Judas, who banished himself from the cross and in despair needlessly died in his sins, when it could have been so different for him. Or those who don't care at all, whom the gospel tells us walked by our crucified Lord, wagging their heads as they continued about their business. They were unmoved by the sight. They were not stirred to pity. And so they became enemies of the cross by their apathy, never letting the cross touch them so that they might be healed from within. And lastly, there are the Roman soldiers themselves, which is interesting because as Romans, they don't really have a stake in this religious dispute. But they yield to the pressures of the crowd. In them are those who cater to the culture, who bend uncritically to the whim of the times, who fear more becoming an enemy of the crowd than an enemy of the cross, who parrot the latest thing, heedless of our Lord's stern warning, namely that the world belongs to the devil. Wide is the path that leads to destruction, and the majority walk it. But upon closer examination, you may notice that in the Gospels, all of these groups, except for the Romans, taunt our Lord, using the same language that Satan himself used in the temptations we heard last week. If you are the Son of God, save yourself. Paul's anxiety then is that all of us do it differently. We keep our eyes fixed on the cross as the reason for our hope, as the model of the Christian life, as the focus of our hearts, and to be transformed by that encounter, relinquishing all else until we can say with St. Paul, "May I boast of nothing except the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ." But what does it mean then to be a friend? And that's kind of what Paul's getting at in his ambitions. I think St. John Cardinal Henry Newman captures the friendship of the cross best, communicating the urgency of our state and the dispositions proper to the Christian life when he says this. It's a little bit of a lengthy quote, but I'll leave you with this. And certainly I invite you to close your eyes and to drink of his words. It is said in the book of Revelation, "Behold, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, every one who pierced him, and all tribes of the earth will wail on account of him." We shall one day rise from our graves and see Jesus Christ. We shall see him who hung on the cross. We shall see his wounds, the marks in his hands, in his feet, and in his side. Do we wish to be one of those then who wail and lament, or of those who rejoice? If we would not lament at the sight of him then, we must lament at the thought of him now. Let us prepare to meet our God. Let us come into his presence whenever we can. Let us try to fancy as if we saw the cross and him upon it. Let us draw near to it. Let us beg him to look on us as he did on the penitent thief, and let us say to him, "Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingly power." That is, remember me, Lord, in mercy. Remember not my sins, but your cross. Remember your suffering. Remember that you suffered for me, a sinner. Remember in the last day that I, during my lifetime, felt your suffering, that I suffered on the cross by your side. Remember me then, and make me remember you now.